Good afternoon and welcome to the PHLY Eagles Show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Zach Berman here with Fran Duffy. You notice the space between us. Wulf will be here soon. We look forward to seeing and hearing from Bo. Until then, though, we talk about never ordinary. Has not been an ordinary week for the Eagles. They did win last week. They do have a big game this week against the Steelers, which we will get to in depth. Fran's preview is up on allphly.com, and Fran will break down what the Steelers present. But before then, kind of the news of the week, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, the passing offense. You've heard it by now. On yesterday's show, Rich Hoffman, Les Bowen discussed it. Anthony's been discussing it. John Marks has been discussing it. They spoke yesterday, and I was there. And
flex.
Although I got to say, it was a big crowd around AJ.
Shocking. Yeah.
And I was in the back. I couldn't quite hear.
Okay.
And I had to kind of inch my way up. If you don't get there right away and you're not in front of AJ, it's hard to hear from him. But I was front and center for Jalen. Flex.
Huge flex.
So they diffused the situation. They downplayed it. They said their relationship's good. They said Brandon Graham misspoke.
Yep.
They were honest about what's going on with the passing offense. Pretty self-aware there. Jalen alluded to how the relationship between those two has evolved. And from a football perspective, right? He said AJ's competitive. AJ damn sure wants the ball.
Yep.
AJ wants to win. But he said between them, their relationship's personal. Jalen says he has a lot of love for AJ. That's kind of the drama of it all. From a football perspective, does this matter? Is this relevant? What's your read on it?
I feel like, look, the guys came out and I thought they handled everything pretty well. I think everybody said the right things yesterday when you heard from Jalen Hurts, AJ, Jordan Mailata, several other people or several other players from the Eagles spoke yesterday on the offensive side of the football. And I thought that everything came out right. Now it's just a matter of, all right, like you say everything right in front of the camera. Yeah. Now is everything right behind the scenes? And will any of this spill over to the field on Sunday? And that's honestly, we'll get into the matchup in a little bit, but this is a fascinating defense for this offense to go up against, given what's gone on over the last few days. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But I thought yesterday went about as smoothly as you could have hoped. If you were an Eagles fan, just hoping for all the drama to go away.
Yeah, if you don't want it to be, like, if you expected it to be like therapy in front of a crowd,
right?
That's not what it was. They downplayed it. I thought the interesting part, beyond like the relationship dynamics, which is really hard to decipher, especially in those settings, was AJ talking about the comment that really started this all, which is when he responded passing as far as what the offense needed to improve. And I actually respected where AJ came from here. He did not back down from it. He explained it. He said it was intentional on his part. I'm going to read this quote real quick. He said, when he asked the question of what the offense could do better, obviously it's not running the ball. Saquon is about to win the MVP. So what other thing to do So what's the other thing that we do on offense? We pass the ball, and that can go into protection. That can go into picking up a block, us getting open quicker, being on the same page, and Jalen reading something. So he said it's not about Jalen specifically, but it's about the passing game overall. He also said, I said that for a reason. Honestly, because we went to the Super Bowl and lost. We tried it again next year. We were 10 and whatever our record was, and it was a landslide. It's something we can correct now while we have the opportunity. I was bringing awareness to everybody's attention. So that's interesting because, look, he was obviously frustrated after the game, but it was him really trying to send a message to the entire locker room.
Yeah, and that's... To me, this is so much different than because I know there's a section of the fan base that is trying to paint this as like, oh, AJ being a diva wide receiver. That is not how I've taken this the last few days at all. And I know, like, look, there were times on the field on Sunday where the body language wasn't always great. Come off the field, you slam your helmet and things like that. That frustration spills over. But to me, I think that AJ went about. Look, could it have been handled a little bit differently? Internally, I'm sure that the front office and PR would have liked that to go a little bit differently how it went. But ultimately, I think it's coming from the right place. Now it's just a matter, again, of all those guys just kind of getting together, putting some of that stuff to the side and trying to move forward.
Although, honestly, if he was more diplomatic about it, maybe the message doesn't get across, right?
Yep.
He said the sky's not falling. He made that clear. But he said there was an intent with his statement. He also said, I'm okay with being whatever bad guy I have to be for the city, for the town, for my team to hold everyone accountable, be accountable and to get better. If I have to be that guy, I'll be that guy gladly. He said this isn't about feelings.
Yep.
This is about winning the Lombardi Trophy. So he was pretty intentional with that. Now Jalen Hurts, he says, I look at myself first and say, what can I do better? What do I need to do better? I asked him, so what's the answer to that question? He said, finding a rhythm. He said the rhythm's the most important thing. He acknowledged that he might be holding the ball too long on some plays. He says that's something that he can clean up. He really pointed to how the offense has changed. And he said from a macro perspective, you got to be able to saturate yourself in something to say, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. And that question that he answered that was specifically to whether he's being a little gun shy or conservative, trying to limit turnovers.
Yeah. What do you make of the rhythm comment?
Yeah, I think that it's hard to qualify what it means by rhythm, but it is something that I think he wants to get into that synchronization, the word he used. And he actually came back to it. And he referenced how he made pointed comments about synchronization after the game.
Yeah.
And he said the reason he did that is because he's seen it work before, and that's the standard that they have. So he's not running away from this either.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because, look, we've talked about the slow starts offensively, and sometimes it's run game, sometimes it's pass game, but both sides of it offensively have had their struggles at times early on in games. The Eagles have been the worst first quarter offense in football. But when he says something about, I need to get into a rhythm, I think there is something to be said for when you lean so heavily into the run. It can be tough for some quarterbacks to find that rhythm early on in games, but again, like they came out and they were a much more pass-heavy team early in the season, and he wasn't good in those situations either. And so I think when you're looking at Jalen's take on this, I think that's interesting that he wanted to use that word in particular, and especially the comment that he made after the game about the things that are out of his control.
Yes,
I think kind of pairing those two together, I think says a little bit.
And then he also said, this is something that people have to accept. It's going to look the way Jalen Hurts wants it to look, but he's going to win. So basically, he's saying everyone can have an opinion about how Jalen's supposed to play.
Yeah.
And this is what Nick Sirianni said about Jalen. Look at his record. And that's a whole separate conversation. But it was interesting that I asked Jalen, he's used this line before in conversations away from the podium and then on the podium. This term, heavy is the head, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And so I asked him, I framed it like that, saying, what's it like in a week when people are, when that head is heaviest? And he laughed and he said his cleats in the game against Los Angeles were actually called heavy as the head. So he says it comes with it. It's a privilege. I tend to thrive in moments like this. So we'll see if that translates to Sunday. And speaking of Sunday, when Jordan Mailata, and you referenced this, when he was asked about all that's going on here, because Nick Sirianni did address it in a team meeting yesterday, Jordan said, we are moving on. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, not the A.J. Brown and Jalen show. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's it. So that's a good place for us to transition to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have watched the film this week. This is a really good football team. It's the toughest team remaining for the Eagles until the playoffs. We'll start with the Eagles pass offense, because this is what needs improvement here. And the Steelers defense is among the best in the league, 8th in DVOA, 5th in scoring defense, 1st in turnovers per game. Do you see a correction for the Eagles with the passing offense? Is this a week where the Eagles can get the passing offense going?
Well, the way I'll answer that is almost like from a Pittsburgh standpoint, right? Where, to me, Mike Tomlin, they're going to come into this game, and this is the way that they play anyway. I mean, they are one of the highest teams in the league when it comes to playing single high safety. So that second safety is going to be rolled down into the box anyway. So you're essentially loading the box. They're going to stop the run. They're going to say, we're going to try and take Saquon Barkley away. We're going to load up near the line of scrimmage, and we're going to force Jalen Hurts to beat us, especially coming off of what we've seen on film these last few weeks, where he's looked insecure, he's looked indecisive. I think that's the way that they're going to try and approach this. And so when you look at that, that means you're going to get one-on-one matchups on the outside for A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. if you are Jalen Hurts, if you are this pass game, like that's going to be the challenge early on is are you going to be able to make them pay for that? And then consequentially, are you going to, I don't even know if that's the right word, but are you then going to be able to scare them out of those one high looks, get them to make sure that, hey, you know what, we've got to give Joey Porter Jr. or Dante Jackson, we got to give those guys some help over the top. And now that opens things up for Saquon Barkley. That's going to be the onus on them in the first half of this game is are they going to be able to make them pay in those one-on-one opportunities?
No, I know Jalen has a world of respect for Mike Tomlin. He's been on record with that, and Minkah Fitzpatrick too is someone that he's close with.
Yep.
I've watched some Steelers this week, not nearly as much as you, so I'll defer to you, but I can read colors, or I can decipher colors. And looking at your breakdown for this week, the pass defense in the secondary, there's not as many blues and greens as in that defensive front.
Yep.
Right? In that defensive front, you're looking at 4 starters who are either blue or green, and then 1 backup who's green. And what that means is the blues are the stars, the greens are the impact starters, and then blacks are low-end starters and backups. And you see more of you don't see as many greens and blues in the secondary here. So is it fair to say you're more worried about the pass rush in the secondary going in this game?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where most of their talent is right now. And I think when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, the way that they're built, I mean, they want to be a physical football team. And this goes on both sides of the football. So I think when you look at TJ Watt, I would say he's probably having a little bit of a down year. I know that's been a little bit of a talking point out in the western part of the state is that how his pressure rate is lower than it's been. How often he gets the quarterback fast is lower than it's been. Now, the difference is that he's like, he's really running hot in terms of how many of his pressures he turns into sacks. So the raw production is still there, but the metrics don't really point to TJ Watt having a great year. But you still have Highsmith picking up the slack. Yeah. Nick Herbig is picking up the slack off the bench. Cam Hayward is like it's very similar to like the BG aspect of it, where I mean this guy is going on year. He came in year Fletcher Cox, and he's playing in at such a high level still for this defense. Keanu Benton has really done some nice things for them. I liked him coming out of Wisconsin. Yeah, he's done some really nice things for them. So I think when you look at this group, they went and they signed Patrick Queen in free agency. He's done some nice things for them, especially against mobile quarterbacks, which we'll get into. But I think when you look at that group up front, they could present a lot of problems for you. Now, we know that the Eagles' offensive line, I mean, it's as good as it gets, but this is why this group is so good against the run.
You mentioned Nick Herbig. I was about to say his brother Nate Herbig, who's also on the Steelers. If you're watching the Hard Knocks AFC North, there was a great scene in the first episode when Steelers are playing the Bengals, and the whole week Mike Tomlin is saying, Nick, you're gonna have to go after Zeus. That's that's Orlando Smith there, and Orlando Brown rather, and this is something he's saying the whole week. You have to beat him with speed. You have to beat him with speed. And then Nick Herbig has that strip sack that was returned for a touchdown. So that shows A, Mike Tomlin's coaching, B, the depth of that front, but it also shows the fact that they can force turnovers, and they force turnovers at a higher rate than any team in the NFL. So this kind of factors into the passing offense too, in that Jalen's been turnover free, like we said, only one turnover since the bye week. Are you worried about the Eagles either forcing turnovers in this game? Do you think they play more conservative because of that approach? And what do the Steelers force all these turnovers?
I think that there is a little bit of luck involved with some of it, right? As we've come to expect, and some of it, it's not necessarily luck, but it's just the randomness of some of those plays, right? I mean, look, Keanu Benton made an unbelievable play, sniffing out a screen. I mean, he gets into the backfield, he feels that it's going to be a screen to his left, puts his right foot in the ground, comes back over to the left, and steps right in front of a pass and picks it off. Unbelievable play for a 310 pound nose tackle to make. Great play. You talk about Nick Herbig, all right, Nick Herbig beats the tackle to the edge, gets home. Yep. He's got multiple strip sacks this year. He and TJ Watt are both in the top 3 in terms of strip sacks so far this year. So that's a skill, right? In terms of being able to get the ball out from the quarterback. We've seen some tip ball interceptions. We've seen some overthrow interceptions, right? So some of that can be a little bit luck based, but I think when you look at this group, They have guys that know how to get after the football. They have guys that can finish on the football in the back end. They have the undrafted free agent nickel corner Beanie Bishop. He had that was one primetime game earlier this year where he had 2 picks. He can get hands on the football. He did the same thing at West Virginia. So I think when you look at this group, some of it is, hey, guys in the back 7 just have a knack for finding it. Guys in the front, they do a good job of attacking it. And then there's some luck involved as well.
The great thing about your note is you can geek out on every player. You can geek out on all the numbers. But if you just wanted to get like the 3 quick keys to the game, you give that at the bottom. So the first one is protect the ball, like you said.
Yeah.
But then you say defeat man coverage. And you mentioned this being a single high team. And I'm going to combine number 2 and number 3 because you said for number 3, get them out of their comfort zone and run the win. This team wants to load the box. If the pass game is hitting early, you can run thereafter, basically. So we spoke about opportunities downfield, beating man coverage against Joey Porter, against Dante Jackson. Is this a game where you expect the Eagles to come out passing the ball and trying to use that old Andy Reid formula?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is one where they're probably going to have to. Yeah, I do think that they're going to try and assert themselves on the ground. You know, you go up. I think any game they want to try and get Saquon Barkley going. You mentioned, hey, you know what? This is a team that likes to be able to turn the ball over, to create those turnovers. Maybe they do come out and they're trying to, you want to be conservative, want to make sure that you don't push it against this defense. But I think ultimately they're going to have to make those plays. Now, what's unique about Pittsburgh's approach? We think of man coverage. Oh, it's 3rd down. That's a man coverage down. They're like the opposite. They're one of 2 teams in the NFL so far this season where they are playing less man coverage 3rd down than they do on early downs. When they get to 3rd down, that's where they get into some of their funky zone looks, and they're really disguising coverage and rotating guys. They play a lot of dime on 3rd down, and so when you get all that speed on the field, they do a good job of really rotating coverage, trying to confuse things for the quarterback. And so I think what you'll see for the Eagles is early on, usually it's 3rd and 7, they're going to call mesh and try and defeat man. You might see those kind of calls earlier on in a series just because you want to try and see if you can try and win some of those matchups. Joey Porter Jr. has done a nice job. He's been really productive this year in terms of not allowing big completions down the field. I think he's number 1 in the NFL. Yeah, he's got 36 targets in man-to-man coverage without allowing a touchdown. That's number 1 in the NFL. So when I say that he's been productive, that's what I mean. He's not allowing production to be had against him. That said, when you look at, there are times where he stumbles out of breaks. There are times where he gives up some separation in man-to-man. Like, you can get after him. I think if you are, if you're DeVonta Smith, like DeVonta Smith should be able to separate against Joey Porter Jr. And honestly, like A.J. Brown should be able to separate against Joey Porter Jr. as well in those situations. Now, they'll travel Porter inside. They'll move him into the slot. So if you do move A.J. Brown inside, I think that Porter will travel. But it's going to be an interesting matchup from that side of it. Again, coming off of what we talked about for this Eagles offense for the last few days, where so much focus on the pass game and what's going on with the pass game, this is a team that's going to challenge them and say, if you're going to pass the ball, we're going to make you do that here in this one. That's what's going to beat us.
Saquon's been able to run against everybody.
Yeah.
The Ravens had the best run defense in the league. The Eagles, you speak their offensive linemen, and something that they often say is it doesn't matter who it is, they can run against them. Do you think Saquon's going to have success on the ground against this group?
I think he can. And they're fearless when it comes to against the Baltimore Ravens and their number 1 rush defense. All right, we're going to run for 150. I mean, that's the way that this group has always operated under Jeff Stoutland, is they're not going to be afraid of that matchup. When you look at what makes Pittsburgh so good, they don't miss tackles. They're the best tackling team in football by the metrics this year. I think when you look at Cam Hayward, when they're playing their base defense, and I think here's the number. They've allowed over 2 more full yards per carry on average with Cam Hayward off the field compared to when he's been on the field. So this could be a situation. We've seen the Eagles go hurry up at times. Yeah. If the Eagles can go, if you catch them without Hayward on the field, get into hurry up. Don't let them sub. If you're able to really stay true and don't you don't sub out, that could be something we see them try and take advantage of at some point in this game too.
And would they do that with 11 personnel or with 12?
You'd probably have a better chance of that happening with 11, just because that would be the scenario where you might see Hayward off the field. I mean, he's an every down guy for them, but if you're going to catch them in a rotation, I think it would be more likely to happen in 11 personnel.
We've discussed the defensive front. We've discussed the secondary, but you mentioned Patrick Queen. And Patrick Queen, he was their big free agent acquisition. We spoke about him. Bo and I did quite a bit during the free agency period. And you mentioned him specifically in like spirals against the RPOs. What should we see with Patrick Queen. And then I want to put Peyton Wilson in there too,
Yeah.
because he's been an important player for them this year.
Yeah, honestly, all three of those backers play very important roles for that defense. So Patrick Queen is the every down guy. Plays in base, plays in nickel, plays in dime. They play a lot of dime, as I mentioned, and Patrick Queen's role in stopping both Jaden Daniels in the Washington game in Week 10 and then Lamar Jackson in the week after that in Week 11, pivotal. He did an outstanding job playing as a spy, playing as a contained player, as the lone linebacker on the field. When they go into dime and it's third down, very often you'd see, all right, he's going to go up to the line of scrimmage and he's just going to survey and just make sure that he's mirroring that quarterback. And he's got that range to be able to do it. That's something that he can do at a high level. So is he the biggest and strongest? No, he can still get stuck on blocks at times. I think that there are times where he can be a little bit nosy and you can get him out of position in certain areas. But if he's just playing man-to-man against the tight end or man-to-man against a running back more often, again, in that spy role, I think he does an outstanding job. And so I think that's how they're going to try and utilize him here. You mentioned Peyton Wilson, rookie third round pick from NC State. I was a big fan of his last year when he was coming out of NC State. And I think when you look at him, really athletic, really rangy, always around the football. He got knocked to his number one. Medical history was really long. And then number two, the body type was a little unique, really short arms for a guy who was 6'3". So people question, is he going to be able to consistently play through contact? But I think he had an outstanding interception on a wheel route against the running back. He's a good running back matchup player for them in nickel. So I think when you're looking at Peyton Wilson and his role, I think you're going to expect to see plenty of him, especially against 11 personnel.
Last question before we transition is who's the guy you start your game plan with this week? Is it TJ Watt or is it Minkah Fitzpatrick?
It's a good question. I think that it's probably Minkah. Minka's having both are unique because I mentioned that Watt's having a little bit of a down year from a pressure standpoint. Obviously, he's still impactful, does a good job against the run. Minkah, he in years past with this defense, he was kind of a movable piece and he's going to play in the box and he's going to play in the slot. He is almost universally the post safety now. They keep him as that center fielder, and he's patrolling. He's playing traffic cop back there, and that's his role. You're seeing a little bit less of him down closer to the line of scrimmage now, but I think when you look at overall, you'd probably say Minkah just because of what he can do on the back end.
Yeah, great stat that you have here, which is the deepest he's aligned in his career.
Yeah.
So
That's right, from Next Gen. Yeah, a great data point from them.
That's a good nugget. We will get to the Steelers offense right after this break. If you think back to 1975, okay, I wasn't alive then, but this week in 1975, the Eagles were preparing to play a game against the Denver Broncos. You probably don't remember much about that game. They lost 25-11. It's a forgettable game during a forgettable year. But if you're watching that game, you know what you probably remember being with your friends, enjoying an ice cold Miller Lite, because a lot has changed over the years. One thing that hasn't is the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't is that it's less filling. So what is the best thing about the original light beer? A Miller Lite sparked this debate in 1975 and still has not settled it. With Miller Lite, you have the great taste, you have the light beer, but you also have the memories that are associated with drinking Miller Lite. There's the time that you have with friends, enjoying maybe a forgettable game against the Broncos, maybe a memorable game against the Steelers. Miller Lite keeps it simple. Undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer, less filling, and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. You do not need to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY Birds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
Well, let's talk about goals for a minute. And I want to ask, how are you tracking the goals that you set for your business earlier in the year? Are you close to reaching those goals? And if not, do you know why you have not hit those goals yet? Because it's important to set them, and we know that it's important to hit those goals as well. I know for me personally, we're getting in the middle of December, which means we're just about a month away from draft season kicking up into full gear. That means Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, Combine is going to be here before we know it. So for me, that means I've got to set goals in terms of how many of these players do I have to watch every single day over the course of a 7-day week. I try and make it a point. All right, if I can watch 3 or 4 players a day, or at least do some minimal research, the statistical research on 3 to 4 players a day, I feel like I will reach my goal by the time I get to Dallas for the Shrine Bowl, Mobile for the Senior Bowl, certainly Indianapolis for the Combine. I will be in good shape to be able to let you guys know what are all these players all about? How are they strong? How are they weak? How can they help the Eagles? Well, no matter what your business is, you also have those year-end goals. Constant Contact has what it takes to help you meet those goals and meet them faster. No matter how experienced you are with digital marketing, Constant Contact has the tools to make your marketing run smoother, sell more, raise more, and build more genuine relationships with your audience with Constant Contact's suite of digital marketing tools, all made to fast track your success. You no longer need to struggle with expensive, slow, and unmeasurable approaches to marketing your business. Tap email marketing that helps you create and send the perfect email to every customer. You can own the smartphone by adding texting to your marketing strategy. Connect with over 2 billion people on social media with all-in-one tool for posting and sharing, and you can sell more online in less time with Constant Contact's powerful e-commerce tools. Get all the automation, integration, and reporting tools that get your marketing running seamlessly. Join the thousands of businesses and millions of people who trust Constant Contact with their marketing success. Time to put go in your 2024 business goals with email, social, SMS, and customized marketing campaigns built for you in just a few clicks. Ready, set, go to ConstantContact.com/allcity and start your free trial today. Go to ConstantContact.com/allcity for your free trial.
We got by with Kenny Pickett in the host seat, but now we got Jalen Hurts back. That's a good thing, but I just want to use that reference real quick because the injury update from yesterday, Jalen Hurts was a full participant, but on the report with a left ring finger injury.
You called that out.
Yes. I just observed that he had it wrapped up. I would expect him to play this week. Nothing to worry about there. Reed Blankenship was back at practice on a limited basis. That's a positive for the Eagles. I would expect him, if he passes the concussion protocol, to be back on Sunday. A lot of players out because of rest or personal, so nothing really to worry about there, except Sidney Brown continues to have a DNP there because of his knee injury. And other than that, Jalen Carter limited with a shoulder injury. Britton Covey progressing with that neck injury. You saw Nakobe Dean on some pictures have his elbow wrapped or have some apparatus on his elbow. He was a full participant, so nothing to worry about there. But we'll take over.
Where were we?
We're about to talk about the Steelers offense against the Eagles defense. We broke down. First off, it's good to see you.
See you. Like Arthur
Oh,
Smith.
Arthur Smith hat. Nice.
What we did was
Gotta get used to that.
we
missed the window to return it, so gotta use it again.
We finished up on all the AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts stuff from yesterday, and then we had a breakdown of that Steelers defense and the challenge they posed.
I was listening
to
the Steelers breakdown in the car. I missed the AJ Brown discussion. What do you make of the? I don't know. We don't need to circle back if you guys fully fleshed it out. But like, to me, like AJ Brown is in the right here.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, anyone that's painting him as always like a diva receiver move. Like, no, I did not see that way at all. I think that he was absolutely right with everything that he kind of laid it out. And honestly, like I thought everybody came off pretty well yesterday. I felt, but I thought that AJ especially.
Yeah. Okay. We don't need to hash it out again. All right. Let's talk about then the Eagles defense against this Steelers offense. And Zach, I think you have the sliding doors potential as you watch this Arthur Smith, Russell Wilson led offense. This could have been an Eagles offense at one point.
Yeah, if you think back to 2021, the Eagles really liked Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith was hired quickly by Atlanta. Had Arthur Smith lingered on the market, it wouldn't have surprised me if
didn't Arthur Smith turn down an Eagles interview? Is that right?
No, he actually had a long interview with the Eagles.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember him saying like how long it was, but then Atlanta brought him in for the second interview, and that got done pretty quickly.
Oh, that's right. He was complaining about how long it was.
Or he was just referencing or how many people they had in there, or something like that. He did a podcast where he's talking about that.
They were his last interview before accepting, right? Before
yes,
accepting with Atlanta.
Exactly. The Eagles wanted to kind of go through their whole interview circuit.
Yep.
If you recall, the Eagles were late in the process there, but I know he's someone that that the Eagles liked. And then obviously at that time, the Eagles didn't know about Jalen Hurts. They knew about Jalen Hurts. They weren't fully committed to Jalen Hurts. That next offseason, they were interested in Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson wasn't interested in coming to Philly. But it's interesting to see Russell Wilson function, I think, fairly decently in this Arthur Smith offense. To think that there is a world in which Arthur Smith is the coach and Russell Wilson's the quarterback in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I don't think that would have gone very well. Do you?
I mean, I've thought highly of Russell Wilson as a quarterback. The last 2 years didn't really validate that, but he is playing much better this year. I'll defer to Fran on that.
Do you think that he's playing much better? Or do you think
certainly than Denver?
He's playing better than Denver. He's playing better than Denver for sure. He's running hot with some of these like contested throws over the top to Pickens, who probably is not going to be on the field on Sunday. But I think when you look overall, like honestly, and it's really funny when you look at the numbers between these two offenses. They are like mirror images of each other in terms of like the tendencies and like what they want to try and do, where they attack on the field, what they try and do from a pass game standpoint. The biggest difference is like the Eagles offense just is so like exponentially more talented. Like the talent that they've got from a skill position standpoint and from an offensive line standpoint, so far ahead what Pittsburgh brings. But offensive, like what they want to try and do and how they attack and how the quarterback tries to attack things, it's very, very similar in that way.
Well, at least over the course of the season, over the last few weeks, Eagles not throwing downfield as much as the Steelers offense.
Correct. Yes,
continues to do. Right?
Yes. So Jalen over the last month has not been pushing the ball down the field, but what we know Jalen to be over the course of his career in terms of this is the way that he typically has made his bread. That is the way he tries.
And I think that's an indictment of the Eagles offense, don't you think? Because it's sort of like the Steelers offense is the offense of a team that is, as you say, trying to make the most out of not being super talented. It's like an early 2000s NBA, like just layups and threes, like just throw the deep balls and take the downfield stuff. Don't ask for much of Russell Wilson. I know you have in your breakdown that Russell Wilson throws it over the middle of the field the second least often of any team in the league after Jalen Hurts. But with the Eagles, because they have those guys, I mean, this is the bigger conversation about the A.J. Brown complaint, but like if you have Saquon Barkley and the running game being the best in the league, it should make everything so much easier for A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith and Jalen Hurts. And I think that's part of A.J. Brown's frustration is like, if I'm seeing one-on-ones, like, get me the ball.
Yeah, and that's why, when we were talking about this matchup, this week is going to be such an interesting case study after this whole week because chances are, like, AJ is going to see a bunch of one-on-ones. That's the way that Pittsburgh plays. They are near the top of the league in the amount of cover one that they play. So single high safety man. They're near the top of the league in how much cover three they play, which is single high safety zone. And so that means like the guys on the outside, it's going to be one-on-one against corners more often than not. And so I think when you look at this matchup, AJ is going to have those opportunities. DeVonta is going to have those opportunities. What do the Eagles do with them is going to be fascinating.
And so game plan-wise for Vic Fangio this week, I mean, we know that they have done an awesome job of preventing big plays.
Yep.
Is there anything that they have to do differently this week to make sure that that's even more of a focus?
Well, when you look at it, last week, without George Pickens, was their worst passing game of the year. Russell Wilson really struggled in terms of being able to consistently find his receivers down the field. Their leading wide receiver was Scotty Miller. He had 38 yards receiving at that wide receiver position. Pat Freiermuth, he led them in overall receiving, but even still, I think he had like 40-some yards and a touchdown. So I think when you're looking at this pass game, it's going to be about them trying to find who can be that replacement for Pickens in this football game. Now, Pickens is a guy that lined up primarily outside the numbers. They'd love to give him the ball fast to wide receiver screens, but then also those deep balls, we're just going to let him play above the rim, and he's going to dunk on those guys down the field, on the DBs down the field. And he made those contested catches as well as anybody over the last couple of years. So without him in the lineup, the guy that I would say, all right, he's the best one-for-one replacement in that role is Mike Williams. He had he had one of those outstanding grabs last week for them. Calvin Austin has been a nice deep threat for this team as well. 5'9", 162 pounds. So he's not going to go up and over people, but they love running him down the seam. They love the deep posts with Calvin Austin and certainly the wide receiver screen game as well. That's the thing is that when you look at this offense, while it is very focused on outside the numbers, deep shots, YOLO balls, the moon balls from Russell Wilson, they're one of the best yards after catch offenses in football right now. And I think that's an Arthur Smith type of thing. That's something that he was always good at, generating the yards after catch for his offense. So a lot of that is wide receiver screens, but they'll do some of the shallow cross stuff with Calvin Austin as well, just trying to create room for those guys to work.
I know one thing that they've done, especially in these past 2 years since the Eagles saw them last, is try to rebuild that offensive line.
Yeah,
they have 4 players that have been added since that game in 2022, including Isaac Seumalo, including Zach Frazier. Zach Frazier's a high draft pick. Yeah, Broderick Jones. What's that?
Nate Herbig.
Yeah, I'm talking about the starters, but yeah.
I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah. But Broderick Jones, first-round pick.
Yep.
Zach Frazier, second-round pick. Seumalo, big-ticket free agent.
Fautanu, who they drafted in the first round this year, but he's been hurt for the majority of the year.
Yeah. Is this an offensive line that will be imposing for the Eagles?
I don't think so. I think that, look, it's certainly like a much better group than what they were with the last time these two teams played. Dan Moore Jr. is a solid left tackle. You can get him a little bit. At times he can get a little bit over aggressive and doesn't have the foot quickness to be able to recover as well.
He's Dan Moore. He's not Dan Most.
Right. That's how exactly. I think that was in my notes. Seumalo is a good player. Obviously, like we know what Seumalo is. Yep. He's the same player. Zach Frazier's awesome. The rookie center, second-round pick out of West Virginia.
Do you like him?
I did, and he's outperformed that. Like I didn't love him. I liked him. I didn't love him, and he's been awesome. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's really good in the run game, the on the move screen game. He's been outstanding. But even like the pass protection numbers are all really, really good.
He got some Kelsey comps when he was coming out.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the style. He's a little bit bigger, but that in terms of his athleticism, his toughness,
being downfield.
He could certainly make some plays at all 3 levels. Right guard Mason McCormick is the rookie 4th-round pick from South Dakota State. He's been fine for a guy that's a backup for them because James Daniels is on injured reserve as well right now. So for what they're expecting from him as a rookie, I think he's been fine. Broderick Jones is a little bit up and down at right tackle. The athletic traits are certainly there, but the consistency, especially in pass protection, is not where it needs to be. The run game was never really his forte, just putting his hand in the dirt and getting after people at the point of attack. And so I think you can get after this group. It's probably more so going to happen off the tackle spots as opposed to the interior, but I don't think it's it's like, oh man, I don't know how they're going to get their wins. I think you look at Josh Sweat, you look at Nolan Smith. I think they can get those wins against Dan Moore and Broderick Jones.
And Mason McCormick for Jalen Carter, right?
No question. Yeah, I do like that matchup, but I would think Jalen Carter is going to get a lot of doubles in this game. The games where we haven't seen Jalen Carter get a lot of doubles is when that right guard over there is one of the higher pick. Carolina left Robert Hunt one-on-one with him, and he did a pretty good job against Jalen Carter last week. And we've seen that. Sam Cosmi, they left with him one-on-one. Chris Lindstrom back in week 2 against Atlanta. So when teams feel confident in their right guard, we don't see as much. My guess is that they're not going to mess around. Arthur Smith's going to make sure they're rolling the protection in that way.
So we haven't just sort of set the baseline for the Steelers offense, 18th in overall offensive DVOA, 15th passing, 21st rushing. And so for a team that is generally run first, they don't run it super efficiently, 27th in EPA per rush. Is it not a super varied running game? Like we always talk about the Eagles running game being varied, or is it just they don't have the horses up there?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. It's not one that there's like this voluminous amount of plays that you have to get ready for. But also like Najee Harris. Yeah. He's fine.
He's not special.
But he's not a special back. And so this is a team, honestly, as I was starting my work on them last week, I thought this might be a team where, you look at what Green Bay did, go get Josh Jacobs, obviously what the Eagles did, what the Ravens did. It wouldn't shock me if there's an opportunity for a team to go out and get a blue chip running back if the Steelers aren't the team that makes that move here this year, just because and that's if Arthur Smith stays, he's still the offensive coordinator, this team is still built the same way. I think that you would look at this as to say, all right, if we can drop Ashton Genty into this group or, insert blue chip running back into this group, I think that might lift the floor and lift the ceiling, honestly, of this entire offense. Because right now, there are a bunch of metrics that just don't paint Harris in that. It might be something as simple as, hey, he's the only running back in the NFL with 200 plus carries that has less than 4 yards per carry. He's got the 4th slowest average speed at the line of scrimmage. He's been hit behind the line at the 5th highest rate, just because he doesn't have that initial juice, that short area burst to get up to the second level. He's not creating big plays. Now, he'll force some missed tackles. He can be tough to get to the ground. So the Eagles are going to have to, you have to make sure you bring it as a tackler when you're going up against Harris, but he's not a big play back. He's not a guy that's going to make you pay that way.
I was going to say the challenge with finding that Saquon Barkley in free agency is that the top free agent running back this year is expected to be Najee Harris. So,
funny.
but you're right in the draft that this is, and we'll have ample time to talk about it in the spring. This is considered a real strong running back draft class.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that seat?
It's okay. Oh, I feel
You prefer the middle?
Yeah, I think I like the middle more.
You want to switch it up, and you can
You don't have to switch it up.
You can switch midstream.
Show. I think this is
No,
nice.
Julia can do a nice.
You like the middle?
No, I prefer there.
Yeah.
I don't like having to go like this.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
as the host, yeah.
Yeah, Julia can. The next time I'm talking, we can. She can.
It's okay.
She can zoom in, and you can switch it up.
We got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, that is true, but we want you to be comfortable. You
That's
got
okay.
It's like
How are
David
you
Letterman
feeling
likes it
about
at a certain temperature.
How chest puffy are you feeling about the Steelers coaching staff?
I don't puff my chest. I don't puff my chest about that. No, it's. I thought it was a good staff going into the season. I mean, I think the role of Mike Tomlin. I still stand by that. Actually, it's cool. We were talking before he came on about the Hard Knocks, and I haven't watched the second episode, but you can see why just people gravitate toward Mike Tomlin.
Awesome.
And then Arthur Smith, like, say what you want about him as an offensive coordinator. He did it. As a head coach, he did a good job in Tennessee as an offensive coordinator. There was a reason why he became a head coach there. Danny Smith. Actually, when I spent 2 years.
Donnie boy.
In Washington, I was helping out with some of the then Washington football team coverage back in like 2008, 2009, 2010 when he was the special teams coordinator there, and I recall how well regarded he is. Jim Kempski calls him the guy who chews 8 things of bubblegum in a game, but that's a team that has been like money on special teams this year. Actually, their quarterbacks coach, I believe, Tom Arth, he was actually Jonathan Gannon's quarterback at St. Ignatius High School in Cleveland, because I remember.
Because that's what you used your time machine for, was to go back and watch Jonathan Gannon play in high school.
Because I remember. I could say this now. You might remember this too. I was trying to talk to him. Well, there was when the Eagles were playing the Chargers. There was something with Brendan Staley, him and Brendan, Gannon and Staley, and Tom Arth offered a job to. This is what happened here. Tom Arth tried hiring, I think Gannon turned it down. So and Gannon recommended Staley, and so I wanted to speak to Staley about this. Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to speak to Tom Arth about this, and I sent in a request, and he actually got fired from Akron that week. So I never actually got a chance to talk to him about it, but he's since recovered.
And yet, with all your boasting about the Steelers coaching staff, you drafted them as the under in the spread your wins and fly draft. You didn't put your turkeys where your mouth was.
Yeah, I didn't like the talent on this roster, and I should never have doubted Mike Tomlin, number 1, and Russell Wilson, number 2.
I don't think that Russell Wilson has much to do with their success.
Well, they were winning with Justin Fields, so yeah, you're correct about that. But look, I saw that game against the Bengals. I was able to watch. That was before the Ravens game. I remember being in Baltimore watching that, and Russell Wilson was throwing the ball all over the field, right? And I don't love, as Fran outlined, their skill position players. I mean, Pickens is really good, but outside of him, I like Freiermuth. He's been a good tight end for them. But outside of that, Russell Wilson was putting up yards with Calvin Austin, like Fran said. So
he throws a pretty slant. I like the way he throws those passes. Go ahead.
And he's not putting the ball in harm's way at all. That is the big thing that's standing out to me right now with Wilson, is that he's not putting the ball in harm's way. He's running into some sacks. He's inviting some pressure. He'll run around in the backfield. He'll do a lot of that. But right now, that's why this offense is kind of middle of the road, is that if the explosive plays aren't there, and that's why honestly, I feel like this is a great matchup for this defense, especially without Pickens. I think that what you'll see from the Eagles this week, more man coverage than we're typically used to them playing. I think that they're going to feel pretty comfortable saying, all right, we're going to play man-to-man with Quinyon and with Cooper DeJean and with Slay. And now that gives Vic Fangio the flexibility where if he does want to blitz, that's fine. I think that they're going to have their way with this defense. You prevent the deep ball, and then Russell Wilson's been good about finding the checkdowns. He's a lot of dump offs to the backs out of the backfield. The Eagles have been so good at corralling those checkdowns and not giving out. To me, this feels like a 4-5-6, 3-and-out type of game from this defense, where they just don't give up a lot overall.
Now, the one thing that I do think we will see is the Steelers play a lot of heavy personnel. I think they will try to keep the Eagles out of nickel, don't you think? There's really prove that you're willing to keep Cooper DeJean on the field against like 13 personnel.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And look, they do play a lot of 13. Sometimes they'll be with 6 offensive linemen, but honestly, Darnell Washington is basically an extra offensive.
Yeah.
He's listed 268. No shot. He might be close to 300. Like he is a huge tight end. So I think that when you look at that, that's probably the way they will approach it. I agree.
By the way, just from our friend Dave Zingaro, because practice is going on as we do this, all 53 players are on the practice field right now, including Sidney Brown, who missed yesterday, and a Blankenship, Covey, Jalen Carter. They're all out there.
There we go. All right. Let's take a little break and be back with more on the other side.
All right.
Game time is focused. Ooh, where's my camera? Here.
This one.
Game time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that helps make getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. How about Sunday? How about a little Eagles-Steelers game? Why not? A little surprise early holiday gift for the Arthur in your life. Game Time Picks. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. There's the all-in pricing. We talk about it all the time. Getting hit with those hidden fees at the very end right before your hidden purchase. Not going to happen on Game Time. They tell you the price right up front, including all the fees. You also get to see the view from your seat ahead of time. The lowest price guarantee, where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find the same seats for cheaper elsewhere. And there's the Game Time ticket coverage, where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off.
We should have planned this better because Bo probably should have been reading the Rite Aid ad today. Because Rite Aid's a good place to turn when you're not feeling well. It's also a good place to turn when you're trying to help protect yourself from pneumonia. Adults aged 50 and older are now eligible for the vaccine. It was previously ages 65 and older. The CDC has since lowered the age recommendation to 50 and older. Millions of people get pneumonia every year, according to the CDC. Last year, I was one of those millions of people. It's a respiratory illness, and fall and winter are a time when germs that cause respiratory disease typically spread more in the community. Thankfully, I hope no one in that Kansas City press box got it last year because I was not feeling too hot. Now is the time to get vaccinated and help yourself stay healthy. Some people who get pneumonia have mild symptoms. Others experience serious complications. The vaccine is one of the best ways to keep yourself healthy. It's usually no cost with insurance. Getting vaccinated is easy. Just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule online at riteaid.com. Unsure of what vaccines you need? Just ask your pharmacist for a personal recommendation. Stop by your local Rite Aid today.
All right. Anything else you want to hit on for when the Steelers have the ball?
No, I think we hit on basically everything there.
I want to hit on one thing here.
Yeah.
This isn't specific to Eagles Steelers, but I did get a chance to catch the NFL film special on Jeff Stoutland. Really well done.
What's going on?
Yeah, it was like a 10-minute, 12-minute video. It appeared last night. NFL Films put it together. Jason Kelsey narrated it. But I don't know when it's gonna be on next. I hope if anyone from NFL Films is watching it, please put it on your YouTube channel so people can watch it. But you really get to see kind of the special relationship that Jeff Stoutland has. There are two. Can I give two quick things in there?
Please.
It's obviously better when you see it, so I'm not giving it all away. There's a scene in there where Jeff Stoutland is watching, he's listening to the Christmas album, and he gets really emotional because these are like his guys, and it's this relationship that they've built off the field. And like he hears Jordan Mailata sing, and he's like, "That's my left tackle," and he hears Lane Johnson. He says, "That's my right tackle," and he gets choked up. It was a real touching scene. And then the other thing was when Allison Stoutland, Jeff Stoutland's wife,
noted children's book author.
Yes, she was speaking about how all these people are her family and she protects them. And like, she's small, but they're big. And she referenced the first time she met Kylie Kelsey. And she said, like, she had to look up. Kylie Kelsey's taller than her. And I can't use the word that she used on that she used when she met him, but she basically is like, don't F with this guy, right? Like, you know, like, he's a good guy. Speaking about Jason, right? And it was kind of it shows. I just thought it was really cool. Like, you hear, and Shield wrote a great story a few years ago on Jeff Stoutland, but you hear about this bond that they have and how good of a coach he is. But what really jumped out to me was, that relationship. Like, these guys, his family, Jeff Stoutland's family, calls these guys his other family. And so if I hope this gets put up, you should check it out.
Yeah, that's great. Sounds great. Do you see like the Steelers on tape strike you as like a super physical team?
Yes. Yeah, it's a physical team, especially, I mean, defense. Well, you know, both sides. I would say that they pride themselves on being a very physical team on both sides.
Yeah, I think there could be some fireworks in this game. I mean, last week, it was chippy with the Panthers, right?
Yeah.
They came in and were trying to sort of punch the Eagles in the mouth. And I just think, given all of the acrimony in the facility this week,
just gonna let it out.
I think there's going to be some real, just like, everybody let it out. And I think the Steelers are gonna push the Eagles. Like, do you guys really want to be here?
I could see that.
You know, like, do you really want to fight for this? I think it's going to be an interesting test from the Eagles, just from like a physical, psychological standpoint.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. And I think when, you know, again, I'm fascinated to see the Eagles' plan of attack first quarter, second quarter of this game, because to me, like, Tomlin, I said at the top before you came in, like, Tomlin's going to come in and say, like, we're taking away Saquon Barkley. You're going to throw it to win. And how did the Eagles respond? That's going to be really interesting.
By the way, did you catch Jalen Hurts? I thought the way that he talked about Mike Tomlin was interesting. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
you talked about that already?
Well, just the amount of respect that he has for Tomlin. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Okay.
Actually, and if to bring up Kelsey again, I feel like I'm the Inquirer here, just mentioning Kelsey all the time.
Shots fired at the former employer.
No, that's not a shot.
Wow.
That's not a shot. The first thing I do.
Paper of record taking a dagger.
No, I love the Inquirer. It has a very special place in my heart. The first thing at 5 a.m. every day, I'm on the Inquirer app. But there's like 4 Kelsey stories a day. I've said this. He's not on the team anymore, but I get it. You're trying to get people to read. But Kelsey's podcast his podcast interview with Hurts last year, Hurts said he had never told anyone this before.
That's right.
But that when he got the call during the draft, he thought it was the Steelers calling him, and he expected to go to the Steelers, and that he saw the PA area code, and he thought it was going to Pittsburgh.
There you go. Wow. Next thing you know, you're going to be throwing the Athletic off the bus.
I wouldn't dare do that.
All right. You guys ready for Swooper?
Love the Athletic as
always,
well. Yes.
Always ready for Swooper.
All right. Last week, Zach, you had Jalen Hurts passes for more passing yards, his most passing yards of the winning streak, more than 264. Obviously did not happen. Jalen Carter draws a holding penalty. Arguably should have happened, but did not happen. And the Eagles run for at least 180 yards as a team. Nailed that one for you. I had at some point there was a goal-to-go situation from beyond the 10-yard line. Loved that one. Didn't happen. Chuck Harris plays more defensive snaps than Will Shipley plays offensive snaps. Did happen. Bryce Young has 3 or fewer completions of 10-plus yards. Did not happen. And the Eagles win by more points than the number of turkeys at which this item sells. That was 12. Did not happen. One for me. Fran had a former Georgia Bulldog records at least a half sack for the Eagles. Didn't happen. The Eagles score a touchdown on their first offensive drive. Didn't happen. Kenny Gainwell has at least 10 touches on offense. Didn't happen. The Eagles' final point total is divisible by the jersey number of an Eagles touchdown scorer. You got the Jalen Hurts touchdown. You got that one, and a really fun one. You got Will Shipley rushes for more yards than Jonathan Brooks. And though Will Shipley did not play a snap on offense, Jonathan Brooks finished with negative rushing yards. So you hit it. You go ahead. You're at 5 1/3. I'm at 4 5/6, and Zach is all the way down at 1 5/6 as we move forward to this week.
Yeah.
Jonathan Brooks tore his ACL in the run where he got negative yardage. So
I hope you feel good.
Not fun for him, but
Yeah,
Fun for you.
I'll take the win.
I got to say, I'm not complaining. Okay, I left on Friday when you guys were going through that whole thing, and we don't need to relitigate it. But I definitely would have bid more turkeys on the divisible by one if I knew that was still on the table.
But you would have only gone to 10.
Yeah.
So, I know. So,
Okay.
but I mean,
I know. But I'm saying, so I didn't just not get the item, but then Frank got more turkeys for this week.
Well,
yeah,
that's a fair complaint.
Yeah.
And now, as to the penalty,
I'm cool with it.
I had the negative. I gave myself the -2.
Okay.
No.
Where is this going? Okay. You had the -2.
I took it to the Swooper Supreme Court.
Who's that?
The Swooper Supreme Court. You don't need to know. And they made the good point that it's not fair that only one of us is actually adding stuff in the middle of the game. And so only one of us is really ever liable to be hit with these penalties. And so
I was liable coming to the
because you brought it in the next week.
Because I was right.
This is not productive for the show. Let's keep it moving.
And so the rule is, if I get hit with a penalty, it gets reduced by 2/3 because I'm one of 3. And if either of you gets hit with a penalty at any point, it's multiplied by 3. So I'm down to 19 1/3 turkeys for this week. Zach, you have 30. Fran, you have 33. So I've been penalized.
Turkeys.
Instead of being penalized 2, I've been penalized 2/3.
That's absurd.
Those are the rules. I'm sorry. All right, so you're at 33. Zach, you're at 30. I'm at 19 1/3. And Fran, you are up by a half point on the season. Let's see if Zach is willing to spend some turkeys this week.
Okay.
Fran, you get to go first.
First one.
Thank you for the graphic, Julie.
Great end sound effect. The Eagles have less than 4 3-and-outs on offense. So let me give the let me give the numbers here. This is a defense here with the Pittsburgh Steelers that has done a great job at forcing 3-and-outs. The Pittsburgh Steelers are second in the NFL. 38% of drives faced end with a 3-and-out, which ironically enough is just about where the Eagles are in terms of their 3-and-out percentage on offense, 32%. So basically a third of drives end in a 3-and-out for the Eagles offense. Third of drives end up at a 3-and-out for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Figure if it's 10 drives in a game, give or take, that's about 3 drives. So we'll say what was my number? The Eagles have less than 4 3-and-outs on offense. We will start the bidding at 1 1/3.
So this is 4 does not count. This is under 4.
Correct. I have
so
less
than
4. So it's 3
or
or less. Yes, 3 or less.
Well, you can't bid a third. You don't have a third of a turkey.
Oh my god!
Only I can bid a third.
This is crazy.
It's so confusing.
This is crazy. But I want the show to keep moving, so I'll bid 2.
2 to Zach.
2 1/3.
2 1/3 to Bo.
3.
3 to Fran.
4.
4 to Zach. 4 to Zach going once.
5.
Oh, 5 to Fran.
6.
Oh, 6 to Zach.
You believe in the offense.
6 to Zach going once. 6 to Zach going twice.
You can have it.
Sold to Zach.
3 or fewer 3-and-outs. All right.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to qualify this. It could if they kneel at the end of the game. Can that be disqualified?
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
yeah.
true,
That can be
a true
disqualified. Okay,
3-and-out.
yeah. I just want to make sure. If they did 3 kneels,
that's fair.
Yeah. Okay, I'm up.
You're up.
AJ Brown has either or as many targets, yards, or touchdowns as the last time he played Pittsburgh. So that's that's at least 10 targets. At least 156 yards or at least 3 touchdowns. And again, it doesn't need to. It just needs to be 1, 2, or 3 of these items. It doesn't need to be all of them. I'll start the bidding at 1.
What do you figure is the most likely? The yards?
Targets.
I think the targets.
Yeah. I mean, 156 yards is quite a bit.
Yeah, Yeah, but they don't throw that much. That's why I would go. Anyway.
Yeah, but Fran was saying the amount of single high
Yeah.
they're going to be seeing and the matchup they had, the man coverage
Oh,
they
this
had.
reminds me. This was my thought driving in. Why is it that it's single high and two high? You know what I mean? Why is it never double high
Because it's
or one high?
right.
It's single high if there's one.
Yeah, it's
But
not
if
double
there's
high.
two, it's just too high.
Yeah.
Why that's not equal?
I think it's because it's a single high safety
Yeah.
or it's a two
Or-
high safety look.
Right.
Right.
Why not be a double high? It's not
Yeah.
equal.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll bid 4 though.
It's been bothering me.
So,
Four to Fran.
a quick football terminology aside.
Okay.
So you know how you're always told, like, don't be afraid to ask, like to show that you don't know something when you talk to the players. Acknowledge your ignorance and try to get an explanation. And
Thanks
and
for watching on TV.
Oh.
Make sure you check out the rest on allphly.com.
So a really smart football person was texting all of us and was talking about something Landon Dickerson said about certain coverages or certain defensive packages that he saw. And it was terminology that might not be terminology that everyone uses, right? And so I asked Landon, I say, I apologize for my ignorance, but you said this. Can you explain it? His first response was, I'm sure there's like YouTube videos you can watch.
That's outstanding.
And I'm thinking, like, I always give that advice, like, don't go in acting like you know everything,
Yeah.
like, don't be afraid to have them educate you on something. And then, like, he just totally
Complete
demoralized
no-sell.
me.
Yeah, right.
And then he explained it to me, and he was like, some teams call it this, some teams call
Yeah.
it that. And so it made a lot of sense. But the first thing he was like, I'm sure there's YouTube videos you can watch.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Anyways, you started this at 4?
4.
4 to Fran.
5.
5 to Zach.
Little did he know he was talking to somebody that loves technology. Just Google, just
You
Google
watch
it.
a lot of YouTube. Yeah.
Yep.
5 to Zach going once. 5 to Zach going twice.
All right.
Sold to Zach.
All right. My first bid or nomination is Jake Elliott attempts a 50-plus yard field goal. I spoke to Jake Elliott yesterday in the locker room. He remains confident. He says all he can judge it by is how he's hitting the ball. He feels good about that. He said there was conversation throughout that process between him and Nick about going forward. He didn't take it as a lack of confidence in him, nor should he himself, as much as we can read into it from the outside. But he feels good. I also asked him about the theory that, should he be doing kickoffs? Would that make him warmer during the game? He said, he understands how people might think that, but that has no effect on how warm he is throughout the game.
And he says he's kicking in the net throughout the game.
Yeah.
So. And by the way, the weather is expected to be 42 degrees with wind at 6 miles per hour.
The wind thing to me is like, I know it wasn't like a crazy wind that they have not.
It's not like it is
before.
today.
Yeah. I'm going to start the bidding here. Jake Elliott attempts a 50-plus yard field goal at 3.
3 to Bell.
4.
4 to Fran. 4 to Fran going once. 4 to Fran going twice.
4 1/3.
Seriously?
No, we're not.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Absolutely
You
not.
got to yeah. You got to bid the whole number.
All right. How about this?
How about you?
I'm not allowed to increase a bid by only 1/3, but I can if I'm I could have said 5 1/3. How about that? That way, it's a little bit less fitting.
Are you gonna go 5?
No, I'm not.
All right.
So then we're back to 4 to Fran.
Yeah.
Going once. Going twice. Sold.
All right. I think you got a good shot on that one.
Yeah. So Yeah, I think I got a shot on that one. The way I'm looking at it is that defense is tough. So I think there'll be opportunities there for if they have confidence in them to take that 50-yarder.
All right. Our first Dane Is submission.
Dane Is.
The Eagles or the Steelers, excuse me, score a touchdown on their first offensive drive. Neither team has done so all year. And there's an extra bonus here. If both teams score a touchdown on their first drive, this item will score 2 points.
4.
Ooh, 4 to Fran.
Is the 2-pointer the incentive for you?
We can talk about it later.
Yeah, 5.
5 to Zach.
6.
6 to Fran.
7.
7 to Zach. 7 to Zach going once. 7 to Zach going twice. All right. Sold.
We do a little turkey count.
Zach is down to 12.
Yep.
You are at 29.
Yep.
I remain at 19 and a third.
Or 18 for those counting at home.
No. Over to you, Fran.
All right. Russell Wilson has more passing yards in the second half than Saquon Barkley has rushing yards over the course of the entire game. Now, let me give you the numbers here. Much how Saquon Barkley has been praised for how good he's been in the second half of games. Russell Wilson, likewise, has been excellent in the second half of games from a production standpoint for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I could pull up that number correctly. You might just have to take my word for it just for the sake of the show.
I believe you.
But yeah, he's been excellent in terms of putting up big-time yardage in the second half of games. And so yeah, who's got more yards? Russell Wilson in the second half or Saquon Barkley overall in the game? We will start the bidding at 3.
Four and a third.
4 and a third to Bo.
I'm trying to get rid of the third.
I don't even acknowledge the third. So it's easy for me.
4 and a third to Bo going once.
5.
5 to Fran. 5 to Fran going once. Going twice. All right, sold to Fran.
All right,
It's
I'm up
Saquon
here.
total rushing yards. Not,
It's rushing yards, correct.
I'm up here. Jake Elliott does not miss a field goal or a PAT. Okay. And I will start the bidding at 2.
And can we clarify that this is only ones that count? Like, for
Oh,
instance,
good.
the missed
I didn't even think
PAT
about
on
that.
a
Sure.
penalty?
Yeah, I'll defer to you guys. What do you think?
I think only ones that count.
Only ones that count.
So
Okay.
the one that the missed extra point would not have counted
Yeah.
in this game because of the penalty.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. 2.
3 and a third.
3 and a third to Bo.
4.
4 to Zach.
5 and a third.
5 and a third to Bo.
6.
6 to Zach.
7.
7 to Fran.
8.
Oh, 8 to Zach.
Big spender.
8 to Zach going once. Going twice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sold to Zach.
Zach down to 4 turkeys.
4 items.
Yep.
Yeah. Good ones. All right, my next submission. Kenny Pickett throws a pass. Now, this does include penalties. So if he throws only one pass in the game, but there's a holding on it and the play technically doesn't count, it still counts for Swooper. Obviously, Kenny Pickett going up against his former team.
Throws a pass. If he gets sacked,
Doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So it's not called pass.
Nope. Yeah, he's got to throw it.
Got it.
And it's got to be forward. I'll start the bidding at 1 1/3.
2.
2 to Fran.
Yeah, like, is this the revenge game?
We want to get him in there extra early.
Get him in there. I don't feel very confident that this is going to happen, but
2 to Fran going once. 2 to Fran going twice.
yeah, good one.
All right.
All right, Daniz.
Daniz, number 8.
The excuse me.
Do you want to read it?
The Eagles' defense prevents a touchdown in a goal-to-go situation. The Steelers have only scored touchdowns on 55% of their goal-to-go opportunities. Only the Raiders have been worse. I'll say 2 1/3.
4.
4 to Fran.
It's a good bid because I can't do it.
Thank you.
4 to Fran going
Friends,
once.
no dummy.
I'm aware.
4 to Fran going twice.
I'll say 5 1/3.
Ooh, 5 1/3 to
Why
Bo.
not?
Give me 6.
6 to
You got it.
Fran. All right. Sold to Fran.
You're down
My
to
last
16.
one. Yep. Go ahead. Yeah, do that.
Zach's at 4. I'm at 19 1/3.
Or 18 for those counting at home.
For those counting at home, it's 19 1/3. You can pretend that there's a different reality, but
All right. So my last one.
Mm-hmm.
A.J. Brown
Oh,
catches a pass 20-plus yards down the field. We will start the bidding at 4.
just to specify, it's just air yards?
Air yards. Yeah,
Okay,
it's not a 20-yard catch, but he
okay.
basically catches a deep ball
Gotcha.
as defined by the grading services.
What's
From
the bidding
scrimmage,
Catches it, not as thrown.
from-
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, not a hypotenuse.
What did the bidding start at?
4.
Thank you, Fran.
Yeah.
5 1/3.
6.
6 to Fran.
7 1/3.
8.
8 to Fran. 8 to Fran going once.
You got it.
Oh.
All right, I am up here, and Bo and I were thinking on similar wavelengths here. Kenny Pickett plays in the game against his former team. So if he just takes 3 knees, that would still qualify. But he has to appear in the game book as having played. And I'll start the bidding at 1.
1 to Zach.
2 1/3.
3.
4 1/3.
4 1/3 to Bo.
Just looking for a cough drop and instead got my AirPods.
Yeah.
I feel very disassociated from everything going on right now.
Did not
I'm in
fit
a
the same
totally different
purposes.
world.
Yeah.
4 1/3 to
Just to
Bo.
hear
Going
him not
once.
say a third ever again.
Going twice. All right. Sold to Bo. 4 1/3.
All right. All right, my final one. All right. The difference between the Eagles' passing yards and the Eagles' rushing yards is greater than the point margin for the Eagles.
In favor of the Eagles.
In favor of the Eagles. So
Got
if the
it.
Eagles lose this game, this is a negative point differential for
Yeah.
them. So the difference between the Eagles' passing yards and rushing yards is greater than the difference between the Eagles' points and the Steelers' points scored. And I'll start the bidding at 3.
3 to Bo.
And just to clarify,
Yep.
this would seem
So
fairly
for
obvious.
a while, the Eagles have run for more
Yeah, no,
yards.
but
than
I'm saying
passing
if they're
yards,
both
but-
in negative, then this would still qualify,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Yeah, because negative 10
Yeah.
would be greater than negative 20.
100.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Sure. I didn't know if it had to be above 0. Okay.
Fine qualification. That's good.
What did you start the bidding at?
3, I believe.
3. 4.
4 to Zach.
It's the passing rushing difference is greater than the score differential.
Yes.
Okay.
5.
5 to Bo.
6.
6 to Fran.
7.
7 to Bo.
8.
To Fran.
You got it.
Oh, sold to Fran for 8.
All right. So as we enter the final day, is Fran's at 0, Zach's at 4. I'm at 15.
All right.
Reverse Dutch auction. Julia begins at 0 and slowly counts up 1 turkey at a time until 2 of the players yell Swooper out, meaning that the item that they are out of the running for.
They're out of the running for the item.
Meaning they are out of the. Okay. The remaining player wins the item and pays the last number that Julia said. Players can borrow turkeys from next week. We understand?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the item.
The Eagles win
Oh.
and the Lions lose. So the Eagles are right now 5-point favorites, and the Lions are what, Zach?
I'm looking this up here. Lions point spread.
Bet
Lions
5.
are
Buffalo
2.5 point favorites against the Bills.
Okay. So you need the Eagles win and the Lions lose. Everybody got their number in their head?
Mm-hmm.
Good to go? All right. Starting at 0. 1. 2.
Swooper out.
Super out.
Oh, good for you, Zach.
Okay.
It's pretty
Okay.
low.
So I get it at 3 or at 2?
You get it at 2.
2.
I get it at 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I'll take that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right.
All right. I have Kenny Pickett plays. That's it. And 15 turkeys to carry over. Zach, you have the Eagles have 3 or fewer 3-and-outs. A.J. Brown hits any of the Steelers' marks from the last time he played the Steelers. The Eagles either team scores a touchdown on the first drive of the game, and if they both do it, you get 2 points. Jake Elliott does not miss a kick, and the Eagles win and the Lions lose. Pretty good slate for you. Fran, Jake Elliott attempts a 50-plus yard field goal. Russell Wilson has more passing yards in the second half than Saquon Barkley has total rushing yards in the game. Kenny Pickett throws a pass, penalties included. The Eagles' defense prevents a touchdown in a goal-to-go situation. A.J. Brown catches a pass 20 yards downfield, and the difference between the Eagles' passing yards and rushing yards is greater than the difference between the Eagles' points scored and the Steelers' points scored. You have 0 turkeys. Zach, you have 2. All right. Some super chats. Chase Edge in Plainview says, Chris Sims said that after away games, Jalen travels home with Lurie instead of being with the team. Is this true, or is Sims being a messy king?
This is the first I had heard of it. Actually, for full disclosure, Fran brought this up to me earlier because he was listening to the Chris Sims pod on the way in this morning.
Just on your own volition?
Yeah. I'll listen to the Sims.
I had not heard that before. And
that would be nuts to me.
He didn't make it as if it was a regular occurrence, but that it had happened. I don't know if he said it once, twice, whatever, but basically that it had happened in the past. He also said that basically he said he was obviously talking through everything with, the locker room and A.J. Brown and everything, and said that players in the locker room have taken umbrage with the fact that Jalen has a pretty heavy hand with the offense in terms of like the structure and like the game plan. That Jalen at times has taken the owner's flight home. I want to say there might have been a third thing, but those were the 2 big ones right off the top.
I mean, I can't speak to whether that's true or not, but I can say that I think that would be a bad look.
I would agree, unless there was something that he was staying behind in the city for. But if it was just, that would really surprise me.
Yeah, that would be a bad look.
My guess is he's probably not making it up. Someone told him that. It's a matter of how true it is. But
Phil Hedges, question for Bo. Oh, by the way, we didn't talk about this. Did you guys talk about this already?
No, this
At the
came up
top?
on yesterday's show with Les and Rich, but not on this show.
Well, notice, Zach, you're wearing your Carolina blue. So do you think that Bill Belichick took the UNC job because his girl is enrolled in class there?
No, I think Bill Belichick took the UNC job because he wasn't getting an NFL job this year.
Yep.
Seth Wickersham has a great story on ESPN today. I don't know how he will do Now, this is the one thing I will say is like there's this idea. Can you imagine Bill Belichick recruiting like 18-year-olds? Bill Belichick's not recruiting 18-year-olds. I haven't spoken to Bill Belichick or Mike Lombardi. My guess is his team is just going to be transfers that are in their 4th and 5th years. And that is kind of, I bet my strong guess is that it's just going to be kind of like this NFL development thing where they work the transfer portal. It's guys who are about to be drafted or 2 years away from being drafted who are physically more mature than some others. Like this is going to be, this is not going to be.
They're going to recruit any incoming freshmen?
I mean, they'll recruit some incoming freshmen.
But not.
But this team is going to be, every year, it's going to be like having cap space and free agency, and that's the way they're going to look at this is like, and they're going to pitch to these guys who are on the doorstep of the NFL that come here, we'll get you prepared for the NFL. Bill Belichick is, I can't imagine Bill Belichick's going to be there to see the 18-year-old that he recruits be a 5th-year senior. I know he signed a 5-year contract, but my strong guess is that unless it's like a freshman who's ready to play right away, that the bulk of the team is transferred. Do you think he's trying to
flip this like 2 years and then go back to the NFL?
I've heard that theory. I don't know. I think that the college game has changed quite a bit in the past few years.
Look out, Zach!
Every day.
The elevator's fixed, though.
Yeah. I always thought that Belichick would want to break down Shula's record. But look, Seth had in that piece today the David Halberstam thing from 20 years ago where he could see Bill Belichick wanting to go back to college. And like it's not hard in college to turn a team around right away because everyone goes in the not everyone. So many players go in the transfer portal, and you can really have a team of 22 and 23-year-olds playing against like 19 and 20-year-olds.
Yeah, any thought that this was going to be a rousing success to me was cast aside the minute he announced Mike Lombardi as his GM. I mean, what are we doing? Like, let's be serious.
Yeah, I mean,
I
would say my optimism went lowered a little bit after that. What I think is going to be fascinating about it is I think that they're going to, there's been reporting about like the assurances that he's been given and things that have been like guaranteed in the contract when it comes to the creation of the staff and how the staff's going to be organized. And I've gotten a little bit of pushback when I've talked about that on social media because it was like, oh, like every college team has a GM now. It's not just about like having a GM. It's about like who else is full-time on staff, like in terms of like a high school director of recruiting, basically a pro department in terms of running the transfer portal. I think that they're going to set a standard from that way that now every other team, like if you're going to try and keep up with the Joneses, like you have to try and keep pace with that. So if he's there for maybe not 5 years, but if he's there 2-3 years and that's like the standard that he sets, then Florida State, Clemson, Virginia Tech, like all those other schools. And then, I think down the line, Alabama, the SEC, the Big Ten, like all those teams are going to have to try and replicate that.
If it's
very
successful.
easily could flame out. Well, look, whether it's successful or not is going to come down to, the players they get and things of that nature. If they don't evaluate the talent correctly, then it's not going to go well. But, because honestly, look, Florida State last year in 2023 played the transfer portal game, and they were hitting on all cylinders, and they were awesome. They went to the playoff. This year, there were high expectations for that group. They played the transfer portal game again, and they came up snake eyes at every single bet along the way. That defensive line did not play well. The quarterback didn't play well. They came up short in every way imaginable. One of the worst teams in the ACC. If they go out and they don't hit in the transfer portal, if they go, because I do think that that's probably going to be the route that they go. I think I agree with Zach in the North Carolina Blues, but I think that when you look at that group, if they don't identify that talent correctly, it's just not going to go well.
But I think this explanation that in college the transfer portal is free agency and recruiting is the draft, I even think that's kind of missing the point because think of NFL free agency, where you can sign a player to a contract and then the player can get out of it just like the team can. So, like, if you bring someone in the transfer portal, they can leave after that year to go to a different school. And in essence, the only way they're going to get paid more money, unless they renegotiate their NIL deal, is by going somewhere else. So if each year a player plays well, he can boost his value and then just go in the portal and go somewhere else.
Okay. Interesting to follow.
Yeah.
Last super chat from LB908. Even the famously guarded Hurts can publicly say he loves his friends and coworkers. Just saying.
Is that a shot at me?
I think so.
I believe so.
I mean, yeah, my friends and coworkers are great. Like, you guys are awesome. I come into work every day excited to be on the show with you.
There's a word missing from that description.
I love being on the show with you guys. Okay, how about that? There you go.
What is up with that?
What? No, I love being on the show with you guys. I love working with you guys. I enjoy you. Yeah, it's awesome. I love that.
You can't do it.
Incapable.
Hey, Zach.
Yeah.
I love you.
Thank you. That's yeah. I love doing the show with you. I came here to do the show with you. We've been doing a show together for 5 years. Yeah.
Fran?
I love all of you. How about that? I love all of you. There you go. All right.
That.
Let's just I don't want YouTube comments. I don't want people saying let's just do that. Okay. But I don't want to water down that term when I say it to my wife and my children and myself. But
Could be
nonetheless,
different degrees.
Okay. I love all of you. How about that?
This is like the Grinch. Like we're in real time seeing his heart grow.
No, or maybe you want to say what you mean and mean what you say, right?
So you don't
now you don't mean it. So now he's couching it by saying he doesn't really mean it.
Oh.
Wow. All right.
At least we know where we stand.
Yeah, at least we know where we stand.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening today. Thank you to you guys for holding down the fort. We'll be back tomorrow. Good thing is in studio. Are you here tomorrow?
I'll be chiming in from NovaCare because next Friday, make sure everyone knows, next Friday we are at the Reading Terminal.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can come hang out with us in person. We'll be doing the show there, so I won't be at NovaCare next week, so I'm at NovaCare this week.
Come tell us you love us in person.
2 p.m.
Regular showtime at 2:00 next Friday at the terminal.
Get some lunch.
We got a last just under the gun super chat from Real Time with Prince Blue, who says Lurie seeing what could have been with Russell versus what he has now in Hurts. Comparison. This is like you talked about before, Zach.
Yeah, I think he's happy with how this turned out. They would have had to given up a lot to get Russell Wilson in terms of draft pick compensation. Russ did not play well the last 2 years. He's playing better this year, but yeah, I mean, you look at Jalen Carter on your team. You look at if you go back to that year, AJ Brown. They wouldn't have had any of these players had they went and traded for Russell Wilson.
Go ahead.
AWOG in the chat. The city of brotherly. Everyone I work with is great.
I love working with you guys. I love you guys. There you go. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching, listening. Make sure you become a diehard, like the video, all that good stuff. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.